Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in the world it is that you are. Welcome once more to another live stream of Alexandra Mayer's Live. And once more, we're doing another page by page reading and commentary of the modern English version of the Bible. We're currently in the book of Leviticus. And I'll tell you, Leviticus has surprised me substantially, because it goes over some rather uncomfortable topics. Lots of laws in regards to how to be the type of human that the Christian God wants you to be. I'm not going to go into detail about previous chapters that we've already gone through. You're more than welcome to go through those yourself by listening to previous audio readings and commentaries of the Bible that I've done. But I was thinking tonight that it's amazing to me how a lot of individuals who consider themselves to be conservative Christians are very closed to certain topics and issues in life. Yet the Bible is very open about these issues. Um, I've said it once and I'll say it again. I don't believe that a lot of Christians, or at least people who proclaim themselves as being conservative Christians, have actually ever read through the Bible. Because this has really opened my eyes substantially. Now, tonight, we're going to go into Leviticus 18, laws on immoral relations. And I do want to make it known that I don't read in advance before coming on here, and I probably should, but I want this reading and commentary series that I'm giving to all of you to be authentic, my authentic reactions to the Bible. Um, I've actually been surprised as to some of the reactions from people who have observed me for a very long time when it comes to this reading that I'm doing. I've had both positive and negative already along the way. There have been people who have supported me and joined some of these readings for the absolute wrong reasons, specifically for what I can only dub as political reasons when it comes to other projects I've been involved in since starting this and stances that I've taken. There have been some people who have only come in the live chat to contribute because they were representatives of someone or something that I later decided not to lend my support to, which is very telling. Not only in regards to me, but when it comes to how people look at Christianity, and I'm sure various other religions in general. It makes you wonder, do they really believe, or are they only trying to get the support of the true believers so that the true believers can lend their energy to whatever, more often than not, nefarious cause that's going on at that time? Hmm. Something to think about, right? So let's go ahead and get into this. Leviticus 18, laws on immoral relations. And this should be good. At least it should be interesting. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, I am the Lord your God. After the practices of the land of Egypt, from where you lived, you shall not follow, and after the practices of the land of Canaan, to where I will bring you, you shall not follow, nor shall you walk in their ordinances. You shall follow my decrees, and keep my ordinances to walk in them. I am the Lord your God. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man does them, then he shall live by them. I am the Lord. None of you shall approach any of his near relatives to have relations. I am the Lord. Okay, so here at this point in time, the Lord, who we're assuming to be the Creator, the Christian God, is making it known that this group of people, the Hebrews, are going to walk a bit of a different path than the other peoples that they've been around and encountered. So let's see what this is. Now, I agree with this first thing. You shouldn't have relations with your near relatives. And there's a genetic reason for that. Inbreeding. Inbreeding. Now, back in Genesis, which spanned quite a large amount of time, there just weren't that many people. But now there's enough people to where there needs to be a certain amount of genetic diversity, which is why I'm sure that God at that time was like, okay, no more marrying your cousin. All right, let's see what else it says. You shall not have relations with your father or have relations with your mother. She is your mother. You shall not have relations with her. Good. In other words, don't do the incest thing. That's over and done with. You shall not have relations with your father's wife, for this exposes your father's nakedness. You shall not have relations with your sister, whether your father's or mother's daughter, whether raised in the family or another home. So again, the Lord God is attempting at this stage to prohibit inbreeding and promote the idea of increased genetic diversity to create healthier people, if you want to look at this from a scientific standpoint. You shall not have relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, for this exposes your own nakedness. You shall not have relations with your father's wife's daughter, who is raised in your father's family, for she is your sister. And another thing I want people to think about, this also promotes a healthier mindset psychologically, and it creates boundaries. When I really think about certain issues that a lot of people have today when it comes to lack of boundaries, not all the time, but sometimes it does stem from there not being proper boundaries within the family or within the home. And that can cause a lot of pain for people. So I could be wrong, but I suspect that the Christian God was noticing this among humans, or already knew, because, God's supposed to know everything. So, You shall not have relations with your mother's sister, for she is your mother's relative. You shall not expose the nakedness of your father's brother. You shall not approach his wife for relations, she is your aunt. You shall not have relations with your daughter-in-law, for she is your son's wife. You shall not have relations with her. You shall not have relations with your brother's wife, for this exposes your brother's nakedness. You shall not have relations with a woman and her daughter, nor shall you have her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, for this exposes the woman's nakedness. They are all near relatives. It is depravity. Interesting. Very interesting. I probably shouldn't go this route in this commentary when I really think about it, but I am going to discuss it considering just the knowledge base that I have. One of the most popular genres within the adult entertainment industry revolves around incest. And now, of course, the incest is simulated, but it's one of the most popular genres. And as I'm reading through this, um, I'm wondering. Actually, there is a graphical map. Surprisingly, if you Google what type of adult content is most popular within certain regions within the United States, there's a graphical map that outlines what's popular where. And it's within the most religious states that the incest adult content is the most popular, which is so telling when I really think about this and as I'm reading this. You know, when I was exiting the adult industry, actually, I met him while I was active in there. But when I exited, that's actually how I learned more about him, just through social media and a certain interaction I had with him. A director, I'm not going to say who it is, but there's a certain director who did quite well for himself, but he had such an internal struggle, or at least that's how he presented it, because he basically was the director of the type of adult content that I just outlined. And he did take issue with it, even though that's what he directed. I think he'd kind of given up on himself in a way. And he wasn't a mean person. He actually had a lot of forgiveness in his heart when it came to certain things, at least from what I could observe. But I know he had a lot of inner conflict about what he did for a living. And I didn't know him well. It was just something I observed that I hadn't thought about in a long time until I read this. I mean, you would think, or maybe it's just a household I grew up in, you would think that it would be common sense not to involve yourself in incest or whatnot, but I think that there is something evil within some people to where they do it for the specific reason of not only hurting their target, whoever they're molesting, but because they hate goodness. Because when especially when a child is a victim of such an act, it forever changes them. It just does. All right, so let's continue. And you shall not have a woman as a rival wife who is the sister of your other wife. Oh, and this goes back to the Rachel and Leah story. See, a lot of this goes back to Genesis and counters some mistakes that were made, um, specifically within the lineage of Abraham. So God is saying, okay, certain things didn't work out, so we're going to eradicate this. All right, so let me restart this. And you shall not have a woman as a rival wife, who is the sister of your other wife. For this is to expose her nakedness while her sister, your other wife, is still alive. Also, you shall not approach a woman to have relations as long as she is in her menstrual uncleanliness. Moreover, You shall not have relations with your neighbor's wife to defile yourself with her. You shall not let any of your children be offered through the fire to Molech, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. After I finish reading through Leviticus 18 tonight, we are going to do a side journey into the element and the topic of Molech. A friend of mine from the adult industry, who I've known for a while now, mentioned the topic of Molech to me not too long ago. And I think it's something that anyone who's a Christian does need to be familiar with when it comes to something that is pretty negative, that is unseen, but that still is in our existence today. Okay, let's continue. You shall not lie with a man as one does with a woman. It is an abomination. So Leviticus 18, this is where a lot of people would have a lot of issues. Leviticus 18. Leviticus 18, number 22. Okay. You shall not lie with an animal to defile yourself, nor shall any woman lie with an animal. It is a perversion. Well, I completely agree with Leviticus 18:23. I definitely do. But when it comes to Leviticus 18, number 22, this would hurt a lot of people's feelings, extensively so. It really does. And it causes a lot of problems. I don't know how I feel about Leviticus 18, number 22. Because really, this has to do with the LGBTQ community. I've always been very straight, but I know a lot of people who are not. And I see why this particular sentence, two sentences in the Bible, is why people in the LGBTQ community don't want anything to do with Christianity quite often. And I understand, and I've understood actually since reading Genesis, why the LGBTQ community utilizes the rainbow as their symbol. Because the first instance of LGBTQ activity in the Bible is in Genesis right after the flood and the situation that happened with Noah and one of his sons. Right before that happened, that was when the rainbow was made a sign, a promise from God that he wouldn't flood the earth again. I'm undecided about how I feel when it comes to Leviticus 18:22. I don't think I'll reach a decision on this until I reach the end of the Bible, because this has been something that I've been undecided on since I've known what homosexuality is, which has been for years now, okay? When I learned the definition. But I don't hate people who are LGBT. The only thing I do ask of people who are LGBT is that they be considerate of those who are not by being honest with them. That's my only request. So let's continue. Do not defile yourselves in any of these ways, for in these practices the nations I am casting out before you have defiled themselves, and the land has become defiled. Therefore I have punished its iniquity, and the land has vomited out her inhabitants. But you shall therefore keep my statutes and my decrees, and you shall not commit any of these abominations, either the native citizen or any foreigner who journeys among you. For the people of the land who were before you committed all of these abominations, and the land became defiled. Lest the land vomit you out also when you defile it, as it vomited out the nations that were before you. And that actually takes us back to the situation involving Sodom and Gomorrah. That was, I would say, the most explicit illustration of certain things that were going on in those times in the Bible. For whoever shall commit any of these abominations, those persons who commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore, you shall keep my ordinances, that you do not commit any one of these abominable customs which were committed before you, so that you do not defile yourselves by them. I am the Lord, your God. All right, so that's the end of Leviticus 18. But like I said, I want to take a little walk with some of you right now when it comes to that situation involving Molech. Molech. Let me make sure I have the right spelling of that. Just give me a moment. Yep, okay. Let's learn about Molech a little bit, because I started a little bit of research into this topic a while ago, but I didn't continue it. But I do want to get back into it a little bit right now. All right, just so that all of you know, it's also spelled Moloch. It can be spelled Moloch or Molek or Molech. Okay? Molech is a name or term which appears in the Hebrew Bible several times, primarily in the book of Leviticus. The Bible strongly condemns practices which are associated with Molech, practices which appear to have included child sacrifice. Yeah. I think I'm not clear, but I did find a video through the BitChute social media platform not too long ago that was saying that Molech was the one of the gods or graven images of quite a few societies within the antediluvian period, meaning pre-flood. Traditionally, the name Moloch or Moloch has been understood as referring to a Canaanite god. However, since 1935, scholars have debated whether or not the term refers to a type of sacrifice on the basis of a similar term, spelled MLK, milk, which means sacrifice in the Punic language. Well, we're going to take another little side trip. I don't know what the Punic language is, so let's find out. And I'm reading this from Wikipedia, by the way. It's a Phoenician language. Okay. West Asia. Interesting. This second position has grown increasingly popular, but it remains contested. Among proponents of the second position, controversy continues as to whether the sacrifices were offered to Yahweh or another deity, and whether they were a native Israelite religious custom or a Phoenician import. Okay. And something I want people to think about when you think about child sacrifice. There's a lot of ways to kill a person. It's not necessarily physical. And that's something that's been a big concern of mine over the past few years, just as I've observed certain situations online revolving around poor parenting. Um, I don't think a child sacrifice necessarily has to do with actually physically killing the kid. I think it could have to do with killing their soul through either some sort of depravity act, like what we just went over in Leviticus 18, like molestation or abuse, something like that, or other trauma. And there is something to, at least in my opinion, what certain people do to children in plain sight in the entertainment realm that, from my perspective, is a form of child sacrifice. And I'm probably some. Uh, I don't even really want to talk about this because I have so many problems in my own life, and I know I'm just kind of drawing attention from the wrong parties by talking about this. But I kind of feel that part of the reason that I was led to do this page by page reading of the Bible is because I notice things. And something that I've been covering lately, and people have been really upset with me about this and have been attacking me left and right for having covered this. But I think that there's something old but being renewed as a form of entertainment right now. And it's called abusography. It's to where people are harming kids, abusing kids, and just doing things to kids that you shouldn't be doing in plain sight on social media. And there don't seem to be any laws to protect these kids. And there's people donating to the individuals harming these kids. And I've been pointing it out lately. And I think some people, but a very small handful, are agreeing with me, but I can feel the pushback from something that's really bad for me talking about this. And I don't know what to do about it, or if anything can be done about it. Let's continue reading. Since the medieval period, Moloch has often been portrayed as a bull-headed idol with outstretched hands over a fire. The depiction takes the brief mentions of Moloch in the Bible and combines them with various sources, including ancient accounts of Carthaginian child sacrifice and the legend of the Minotaur. Wow. See, it's this kind of thing. This is why people don't encourage the reading of the Bible so much, because it does tell you everything that you need to know to understand certain things. I don't know if any of you have heard this phrase often, but I've heard it a lot over the past few years when it comes to trolling. I first heard the phrase um, when I was being extensively attacked after having walked away from performing in the adult industry. And the phrase I'm talking about is mess with the bull, get the horns. And the person who was saying this to me stalked me extensively. He was the one who put out the false rumor that I have HIV or AIDS, even though I don't, and never tested positive or undetectable. I think that he might have been a follower of this Moloch thing. And when I think about how he treated his own children, I definitely think so when I really think about it. I don't know if that's true, Raj. You think that every child a woman has gives her 10 years more of life? I don't think that that's necessarily true. All right, let's continue. Beginning in the modern era, Moloch has been figuratively used in reference to a power which demands a dire sacrifice. A god Moloch appears in various works of literature and film, such as John Milton's Paradise Lost, Gustav Flaubert's Salammbô, Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and Allen Ginsberg's Howl. Okay, I haven't seen any of those movies. The etymology of Moloch is uncertain. A derivation from the root MLK, to rule, is widely recognized. MLK. It kind of makes you wonder if there's a double meaning to people shortening the name Martin Luther King to MLK. Because I do believe that there's a lot of symbology in our world everywhere in plain sight, and double meanings or even triple meanings to a lot of things. Um, Also makes me think about the word milk. I mean, the only thing separating the word milk from MLK is the letter I. And where do we get most of our milk from? Cows, which is the avatar for this thing. Since it was first proposed by Abraham Geiger in 1857, some scholars have argued that the word Moloch has been altered by using the vowels of Boset, shame. Other scholars have argued that the name is a call participle from the same verb. R. M. Kerr criticizes both theories by noting that the name of no other god appears to have been formed from a call participle, and that Geiger's proposal is an out-of-date theory, which has never had any factual support. Well, that's your opinion, Raj. I don't believe that, and I don't really think that that makes any sense, because what about women who die during childbirth? What about, I mean, there's so many instances to where women have children, but they pass away early, to where I don't think that what you're saying applies at all. And I'll go ahead and put this up on the screen because what you're saying, it just doesn't apply. I mean, if you believe that, great. I guess I would encourage people to have a lot of children, but I don't think that that's true because I've seen examples in actuality to where it's not true. Scholars who do not believe that Moloch represents a deity instead compare the name to inscriptions in the closely related Punic language, where the word MLK, mulk or mulk, refers to a type of sacrifice, a connection first proposed by Otto. Okay, Otto Eisvelt. Eisvelt himself following Jean-Baptiste Chabot. Hello, Maggie. Connected Punic mulk and Molech to a Syriac verb, mulk, meaning to promise. A theory also supported as the last problematic solution by Heath Durrell. All right, so this continues. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It goes into, and this is all from Wikipedia. It goes into biblical context. Okay. And when I think about it, when Moses was coming down from Mount Sinai with those 10 Commandments, it was Aaron who gave the okay for the people to create a golden calf. So at that time, right when the people were actually seeing God coming down, because they all witnessed something going on that mountain. And even with the tent of meeting, they were actually seeing in physical manifestation the power of God or something that was some sort of energy that was paranormal to them and probably to even us at this time, that was a representation of God. But still, you had this old way, Molech, permeating their mindset because they created that golden calf. So that even at that time, they were still holding on to the old ways despite all the fireworks, essentially, that God was displaying for them. So this was really ingrained in their culture, pre-Christianity, definitely in these biblical times. This was the competitor to the Christian God, Moloch. Wow. And still, you do have people who follow or who worship Moloch to this day. To this day. I'll have to read this on my own later because I'm not going to read through all of it. But I just want to see if there's anything that I think is important that I want to put into this live stream. Well, it is linked to Judaism. It is. In Christianity, the church fathers only discuss Moloch occasionally, mostly in commentaries on the Book of Amos or the Acts of the Apostles. Early Christian commentators mostly either used Moloch to show the sinfulness of the Jews or to exhort Christians to morality. Discussion of Moloch is also rare during the medieval period. and was mostly limited to providing descriptions of what the commentators believed Moloch's sacrifice entails. Such descriptions, as found in Nicholas of Lyra, derive from the rabbinical tradition. During the Reformation, on the other hand, Protestant commentators such as John Calvin and Martin Luther used Moloch as a warning against falling into idolatry and to disparage Catholic practices. Jehovah's Witnesses understand Moloch as a god of worship of the state, following ideas first expressed by Scottish minister Alexandra Hislop from 1807 to 1865. So, I do encourage those of you out there interested in this topic to look at the Wikipedia article revolving around Moloch, spelled Moloch. It's interesting. Hmm. Okay. So the more I read the Bible, the more I see why people don't want you to read the Bible, because it does make you understand some things. It definitely does. So everyone, have a wonderful night. Thank you, Raj, for contributing to the conversation. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about in some of your chat posts, but still, thanks for listening and for contributing. And thank you to everyone for listening and contributing, whether you listen live or at a later date. So, tomorrow, or more like today, because it's late where I am right now, we'll go into Leviticus 19, and we'll just keep going until we reach the end of the Bible. But yeah, I guess Leviticus 18, I struggle with that one area, Leviticus 18, 22, section 22. I'm not sure entirely how I feel about that. Not at all. Because it does make me question my own existence. Just considering my own family, where I come from, how I came to be. But I suppose everyone questions their own existence to a certain degree, at least if you're somebody who really is over analytical, such as myself. So take care. Have a good night. Bye bye.